who's for kids, he's going to talk about online social marketing and what's really happening with online marketing and how the produce industry as a whole can really get on that bandwagon.
All right, good morning. So what is social media? Well, my definition of social media is interacting and engaging with a community to build relationships. It really comes down to one thing, and that's building relationships. These three power words are huge within this medium. Interaction, engagement, and a community. Together, we have a new relationship. So now, why is social media important? Number one, in friends we trust. As you can see from this recent study here by Nelson, friends' recommendations are overpowering any type of resource when purchasing or making a purchasing decision. This is compared to radio, magazines, newspapers, editorial reports, and so forth. You can see 90% trust somewhat what their friends have to say versus some other mediums. About 25% of those trust completely. What this all comes down to is that recommendations are important to purchasing decision. These people using these networks are more likely to engage in your brand. So now that you have an audience that completely trusts you, or they're going to their friends and asking them for information or advice, when dealing with a crisis management situation, you actually have a network that you can tap into within minutes to help solve any problems or concerns. Number two, shopping has changed, and we've heard that from our previous speakers as well. Traditionally versus modern influence, people are getting different information different ways. Traditionally, in-depth reports. When we needed information a few years ago, we'd spend a lot of time in the library making photocopies, dictionary, using encyclopedias. Today, we have the opportunity to do instant search results. Within a matter of half a second, using some of those search browsers, we can find the information we need without much thought at all. Publications versus blogs. I don't feel publications are ever going to go away, but I do feel that people are going to blogs more frequently to get other information as well. It's an extra resource for consumers to find more about your product or service. Snail mail versus email. We're all very familiar with this. It could take a couple days to mail a letter just across the state, whereas email, you can reach anyone in the country or in the world within a matter of seconds. And the last point here, advertisements and social media. I think now, more than ever before, is the time to start blending these advertisements traditionally, meaning print advertisements, into your social media marketing strategies. Basically, these two charts boil down to one thing, and that's your target audience is looking for you. Now, the new generation is actually coming to you for more information, whereas in the past, you might have been reaching out to them. This gives you the opportunity to actually have a base of people or consumers that are specifically interested in your product, and you can engage with them more directly. And number three, it increases profits. There's a huge return on investment working with social media. A study by Forrester actually this was published last month in the Economics magazine. They predict by 2013 that social media revenues will increase to $1.997 million. This is clearly over any other medium as far as Web 0.02 revenues, wikis, podcasts, and widgets. What all social media does is give you the opportunity for lead generation. The more people you interact with and the larger your fans or your followers become, the more opportunity you have to promote or pitch your product, therefore increasing sales. The way social media works is through a network effect. What this means is if I find your product or I'm interested in your service, I might share that with my friends, who will then share that with their friends, and so forth. So you can see how fastly that can grow. It also provides a big savings. This comes down to really focus groups. Instead of spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on focus groups, you now have the opportunity to use social media as almost like think of it as a focus group on steroids, where you have all the information you possibly need in one area. You can find what people are talking about, ways to improve, different resources and different avenues to find more information, all really within your fingertips and without having to leave your computer. But the most important point on this slide is it takes time. Be patient. And when you meet someone for the first time, it takes a little bit to establish some credibility and form a relationship with that person. It's the same with social media. When you join these networks or become more prominent on these sites, don't expect to have 1,000 or 2,000 fans by the next morning. It's going to take a little time to gain some trust and credibility within your market. And as time progresses, you'll see that will slowly start to almost snowball. And then as more people read and know more about you, you'll receive a tremendous amount of followers within a few months' time. So now, if you're not convinced on why it's important, I want to go through some concerns or some hesitation on why companies have been resistant or reluctant to incorporate social media into their marketing strategies. So let's travel back in time a little bit, back to the 1980s, which fits this theme of Southern exposure perfectly. And Microsoft developed this program that we all know today as Excel. Excel came out into the market, and there was a lot of pushback from big businesses saying, if we incorporate Excel into our company, people are going to use it to keep track of fantasy football teams, address books. Some of you may remember, people were a little nervous. They were afraid that their employees would be distracted from work. Now, I'm sure 90% of us use Excel on a daily basis. I'm sure maybe even half of us might have looked at something this morning before coming in here today. Then we move to the 1990s, the internet. The internet comes out. Another big concern. No one's going to do any work. They're all going to be doing personal information, paying bills, looking at credit card statements, emailing their friends. Now imagine today without the internet. And there are still some businesses that don't use the internet. And we can all clearly see that they're very far behind. Now we move up to 2000s, or today 2010. Social media is starting to make this present. It's following the same trends of Excel and the internet. A lot of people are pushing back. My employees are not going to do anything. They're going to talk to their friends all day and not get any work done. And the opportunities to involve with social media are so far beyond the distraction. I think by implementing this into your program would really serve just as much benefit as the internet and Excel did a few years ago. Number 2, confidentiality and security. Another big concern with a lot of companies. A lot of people are afraid that if they put their information out there, that they're going to have no control. And the fact is, it's actually quite opposite. There's so many security measures that are in place with a lot of these mediums that can really hone down and target specific demographics to the point where if you don't want even an individual or a username that may be spamming your sites, you can actually block that person specifically if it gets to that point. Another thing with the confidentiality and security is that there should be no more information on these sites than there are on your websites. So it should almost kind of be a sneak preview or some type of kind of a teaser, if you will, to get people from these networks onto your sites. And the last point is all the information that you put on these sites, you're actually putting on these sites. So if there's something you don't want to be on there, I'd recommend not putting it on there. And the last one, number 3, I can't tell you how many times I hear this. What if someone says something bad about my company? I'm gonna go under. Everyone is so nervous that if something is bad, that everything's gonna fall out from beneath them. And my first response is don't panic. And I hate to tell you all this, but people are already talking about your company. Whether it's your product or your service, whether you're on or not on these networks, people know. And people are communicating about you or your product. What social media does do is give you as the company the opportunity to monitor, manage, correct, and improve what people are saying. By being on these networks, you're more visible, you're more prominent, and when someone does say something about you, you're there to fix it and improve it. Even, for example, if someone specifically received a bad orange or apple, you could actually directly engage with that person, address the issue, and fix it, or offer to send them even a box of oranges as a compliment. So since we are in Social Media 101, I'm going to leave you with some homework.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what I thought about this particular presentation. It was excellent, informative. I found that the gentleman speaking about social media was not only interesting, but certainly well qualified to talk about social media. I think what he's basically done is said this: people are talking, and we need to jump on that networking to find out what they're talking about, and also responding. And that development of that relationship can only create contacts and ultimately business and profit for the retailer.